on this computer. Okay. All righty. So we are being recorded, and guess what, TJ? You're on, buddy.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate your interest. I'm TJ Cambell. I'm the Tire Information and Testing Manager at the TireRack. So just briefly, what that means is I'm responsible for our testing program, deciding which tires we test and the competitive set we test them against, and then interpreting those results, creating the reports, and helping guide how we position and how we market those tires, as the TireRack. So let's see, that's not going to work. There we go. Perfect. So electric vehicles in general and Teslas create a unique challenge for tire manufacturers. Even though the electric vehicle has been out longer than the internal combustion engine car, they have not had the wide range acceptance that the internal combustion engine did for one reason or another. And even up to when Tesla kind of first started, when they came out with the modified Lotus that they called the Roadster. Nobody was certain if this was going to be a long-term thing or if it was going to fade away. And because of electric vehicles, because of what they are, what they're capable of, and also the perception and the expectations of the people that buy them, they create challenges for tires that are very, very different than internal combustion engine vehicles. And so developing new tires specifically for these types of platforms, it's a big change. It would be a big monetary investment for the tire manufacturers. So there was kind of this pause, this, we're not sure if this is going to last or if this is going to be something that just fades away again. So nobody really wanted, nobody as far as the tire manufacturers are concerned, really wanted to invest. And so they kind of waited. And now that it's apparent that electric vehicles are here to stay, they're trying to catch up. And so there are a lot of EVs that come with kind of warmed over versions of tires that were originally designed for internal combustion engine vehicles. And because they're, since they're so different, they don't always, satisfy the end users. So let's just talk a little bit about the challenge that electric vehicles present. So I have here, the Model S 2020 Model S Performance, and it's capable of, Bugatti Veyron type levels of acceleration. It is unbelievably fast. It's a technological marvel, but the person that buys this vehicle often doesn't look at it like that. They're not picturing it like a temperamental exotic that they expect to have, compromises and drawbacks to daily life. They often are looking at it as their daily driver or, the family hauler or whatever the case may be. And also there's a lot of people that purchase electric vehicles in general, buy it because it is the green option. They buy it for the range, the electric economy. So like I said, so what they are, what they're capable of, and the perception of the owners is very different than their closest comparable internal combustion engine vehicle. But just for comparison's sake, I picked something that I look at as kind of the alternative. We have the green Model S, or we have the more traditional the SUV, which is big in the United States. And since we're talking a high performance Tesla, we're going to talk a high performance Porsche Cayenne, the turbo. So when we look at the two of them, there's a 115-pound difference, and of course that's going to vary a little bit based on options and that kind of thing, but just in general, 115-pound difference. So John's already heard this joke, but if I threw my dog in the back seat of a Tesla, it weighs the same as a Cayenne turbo, a big sport utility truck-based unibody, but still, the EPA classifies it as a truck. And in addition to all that mass, The Tesla is 10 inches shorter, and it has the skateboard, the low mounted battery pack in the bottom. So the center of gravity is much lower. And where tall, heavy vehicles traditionally, tip the tires side to side, and they'll wear, they'll abuse the shoulders a little bit. When you have a low center of gravity, it generates all kinds of lateral force, and that's something that tires haven't had to deal with before. One of the other electric vehicle manufacturers actually spec'd a tire for original equipment use that had 300% more lateral rigidity than anything that tire manufacturer had ever manufactured before. And when you're in the world of tires, you're talking half a degree of belt angle. You're talking, gauge of the the textile that you use in the construction. So small percentages equate to big differences. So when you have 300% more lateral rigidity, that's totally outside of the box of anything that really a tire manufacturers had to deal with. And that's just one of the examples of the way that the EVs kind of they're different. Also, the torque that these things put out, and given that it's electric, it's available right now. As soon as the single moving part starts moving, you have all that torque available to you. You don't have to wait for the engine to get into its power band or turbos to spool up. And we'll talk later that torque is very hard on tires. And then, of course, the performance, like I said, some of the fastest 0 to 60 times, quarter mile times, those are all coming from electric vehicles these days. And then on the owner perception side of things, things that you don't notice or you don't anticipate sometimes if you've never driven an electric vehicle before is the lack of driveline noise. So now you're hearing things that you wouldn't have heard in that internal combustion engine equivalent that's expected to have a nice growl to its exhaust. The exhaust note is muffling, is covering up sounds like wind noise and tire noise. And so now you have these basically supercar performing tires that are expected to be very quiet and also have a huge focus on range from the owners. As we were talking, Mike and I were talking about, I don't know a single Tesla or hybrid or electric vehicle owner that doesn't at least somewhat pay attention to the range that they're getting. That's one of the reasons that you buy these vehicles. Whereas if you have an internal combustion engine vehicle that has the same kind of performance specs and weight, you don't expect it to be a 30 mile per gallon vehicle. It's known, it's accepted that you're gonna pay for it in the fuel economy. That Monroney sticker is gonna say 18 miles per gallon highway and 12 city or something along those lines. And that's like I said earlier, if we're talking a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something, those kinds of trade-offs are expected. But then when you have what is a very capable but still a family type vehicle, people don't expect that sort of thing. So like I said, I've said a bunch of times, the demands placed on the tires are very, very different. And we'll start with what is kind of the key, what is central to all of this really is rolling resistance. Hang on. Thank you, sorry. So rolling resistance, it determines how much energy is required simply to roll your tires down the road. How much of your vehicle's output is spent specifically moving that vehicle. And so as rolling resistance goes down, range goes up. So we for electric vehicles, typically we want a low rolling resistance tire. And you'll say, or we'll hear EV owners or hybrid owners, whatever the case would be, they'll call in and they say, okay, I want the lowest rolling resistance tire that I can find because I want to maximize my range. And the bad news is there is no testing system, there is no rating system for that in the United States. That logo or that label that I have there, that's a European tire label. And you can see in the upper left-hand corner, there's the tire with the picture of the fuel pump and the letter C. That is a grade. And in Europe, all passenger car, highway use passenger car tires, they're all graded, not just by line, but all the way down to size. So SKU by SKU, they are graded for rolling resistance, for fuel economy. And that allows it to be, really easy comparison side by side by side. You can figure out which tire has the lowest rolling resistance. And if that's your primary focus, you can buy that tire, no problem. Well, in the US, we don't have that. And to even further kind of muddy the waters, it used to be when low rolling resistance was first coming into the public eye and tire manufacturers were really pushing it. They would say, this is our low rolling resistance line, and tire manufacturer B would say, this is our low rolling resistance line. And unfortunately, the end user had no way of knowing which one was lower rolling resistance. But now they often don't even call them low rolling resistance tires anymore, because they're moving to a more holistic type approach, to where it's an ecological focus or ecological focus. So we're talking things like replanting trees and the water consumption at the factory, and yes, rolling resistance, but reclaiming tires that have been thrown into rivers. All these things go into the tire manufacturer's eco focus. So it's even more difficult for consumers to figure out, which tires are low rolling resistance. And in addition to rolling resistance relationship to range, it's also related to more practical aspects of performance that we call the 3Ws. And in this regard, as rolling resistance goes down, which means it gets better as far as we think, unfortunately these three aspects of performance also go down. So it's a direct relationship, but you would think of it as an inverse relationship, because as your rolling resistance gets better, these aspects of performance get worse. So the 3Ws, the two that are typically a little bit easier for people to accept and just kind of think, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense, are wet traction and winter traction. And the reason I say that it seems like it's kind of easy for people to accept that is, in general, when you think things like longer life or better fuel economy, you often think, oh, those probably have a trade-off with performance in the traditional sense, with traction in the traditional sense, and that's very true. The things that the tire manufacturers do, the technologies, the tricks, the designs that they use to improve rolling resistance typically have a negative effect on wet traction and winter traction. And then the one that sometimes catches people off guard is that third W, which is wear. There's often a common misconception that for a tire to last a long time or to have good fuel economy, it needs to be a hard compound. It needs to basically be a rock that you're driving around on. And it's not, for rolling resistance, it's not how hard or soft the tire is. It has to do with how it returns energy, or how it doesn't lose energy dissipated through the form of heat, and that's called hysteresis. So hysteresis is good for traction, and in some ways it's good for life, but unfortunately it's bad for rolling resistance. And once again, all the tricks that the manufacturers use to improve rolling resistance, they negatively affect your wear. So that's why the conversation that just kind of organically happened earlier today, or earlier on this call. A lot of times the original equipment, real low rolling resistance focused tires don't wear very long, which on the high torque, heavy, low center of gravity vehicles, it just kind of exacerbates that. And there are lots of ways that the tire manufacturers can reduce rolling resistance. And to kind of keep it a little bit shorter, I will kind of move through these a little bit faster, but if anybody has any questions about them specifically, feel free to ask. So the rubber compound that's used, the construction and the weight, things like belt angle, the thickness of the rubber, all those kinds of things affect rolling resistance. The tread pattern, usually a low rolling resistance tread pattern will be a little bit more closely spaced, so there's there's less movement of the tread blocks within the footprint, which helps reduce friction losses. And then tread depth. Tread depth I'll spend a little bit more time on because this is a very kind of quick and easy button for the tire manufacturers to improve the rolling resistance. So the range that they can advertise, or the vehicle manufacturer can advertise, whether that be range for an electric vehicle or fuel economy for an internal combustion engine. And so the tread slab is the single heaviest component of a tire, and it's situated on the circumference of the tire at the furthest most extreme distance from the axis of rotation. And so when you reduce tread depth, you are reducing weight. And so that helps rolling resistance. And also the taller tread blocks move more, which, similar to the tread pattern that I talked about, that movement hurts rolling resistance because you lose energy through heat loss. Anyway, so a lot of the original equipment tires that you'll find on electric vehicles or hybrids, they'll start with 8.5 30 seconds of tread depth, 8.5 30 seconds of an inch of tread depth, whereas normally it's 10, 11, or sometimes even 12 30 seconds of an inch. So that's just a really quick and easy way for a tire manufacturer to take a tire that they already have existing and modify it for original equipment use on, say, an electric vehicle to reduce the rolling resistance. And this brings up a private test that we did at the TireRack several years back. We took identical sets of tires. The only difference was one was brand new full tread depth, or one set was brand new full tread depth, and the other set was artificially worn, so shaved all the way down to the wear bars. So new full tread depth, new at the wear bars. And we used one of our test vehicles. We kept all other variables constant, of course, because that's what you do for a good experiment. We accelerated up to 22 miles an hour. We set the cruise control so it was a constant speed. And then when we reached a set point, we bumped it into neutral and allowed the vehicle to come to a complete stop with, under no power. So the only variable were those tires, and the only variable of the tires were the actual tread depth on it. And we measured both the distance in feet and the time in seconds that it took. And the worn tires, or the artificially worn tires, the worn out tires took an additional 12% in time to come to a stop and 14% in distance. So another 130 feet and almost 8 seconds that it took to come to a stop just by having less tread depth on your tires. So that's a very effective method of reducing your rolling resistance. And that's why when we were talking earlier, I mentioned that it's very common when you put new tires on your Tesla to immediately notice a drop in range. Even if you put the exact same tire that you're coming out of, if you put that same tire on, it's very, very common to see a drop in range right away, and then it will come back as the tires wear out. Does anybody have any questions on rolling resistance? Or I'm going to take this opportunity to take a drink anyway.
I did just ask a question on your text there.
Sure.
So are you basically saying that since my car came with the Michelin Primacy MX-M4s when it was new, if I were to buy new ones now, should I expect the same level of wear on them? Or are you saying the OEM ones from the factories are a little bit inferior to ones that, say, you would sell?
We actually sell both the original equipment SKU and the aftermarket SKU. So if you buy the replacement market tire, I wouldn't say it's superior or inferior. It just has a different focus. The original equipment tire, and this is true not just with Tesla, but basically, I mean, pretty much all original equipment vehicle manufacturers, they work with the tire manufacturer. The tires that they're going to use on the vehicle is one of the first things that they spec during the development process, and so they work with the tire manufacturer to tweak the tire to meet their goals, whatever they may be. Commonly, it is fuel economy is often the focus, but for performance vehicles, Porsche and Ferrari are big ones that they will work with, say, Michelin, to use a different compound in the OE tire, or have a slight variation of the tread pattern, say for hydroplaning resistance or better dry lap times, or whatever it is that they're looking for that vehicle. But if you were to buy the original equipment SKU, the exact same tire that came on your Tesla, I would expect a decrease in range when you put the new tires on versus the tires that you just took off, even though they are exactly the same. Does that answer your question?
I think mostly I was referring to like wear life in general. Are the OEM ones inferior that way? Do they have a little bit less tread than, say, the same model number, but the replacement SKUs tires?
Understood. And they may. I can't say that is going to be the case. And I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head for that specific Michelin SKU. But there is a chance, yes, that the original equipment SKU, it may have started with less tread depth. It may be more focused on low rolling resistance than what the aftermarket tire is. So yes, there is a chance that you might get more life out of the same tires, but the replacement market SKU versus the original equipment SKU. It's possible. Okay, and that segues us very nicely into longevity, which is another issue for electric vehicles and tire design. And as we talked a lot, it's negatively influenced by low rolling resistance. So like we talked about, as your range goes up on a tire, effectively the life that you can expect out of it is going to go down. And then aside from driving style, you can really kill some tires if you drive like a Yabo, or if say your alignment is way off, that kind of thing. Aside from those kinds of factors, torque is the worst enemy of wear. And that's one thing that electric vehicles, and Teslas in particular, have in abundance. And the reason for that is the way tires generate traction. If a tire isn't slipping, it's skidding. You think when you're turning your vehicle, it's not that you turn the wheel and the tires turn 5 degrees and the vehicle makes a 5-degree turn. What really happens is you turn your wheel, say your tires turn 7 degrees, and the vehicle makes a 2-degree turn or so. These are just rough numbers, approximate, but still rough. And the reason for that, or sorry, we'll go back a little bit. The reason for that is how tires create traction. The difference between the angle that the tire is turned, here, let me do this with my camera, the angle that the tire is turned versus the actual trajectory of the vehicle, that difference between the two is called slip angle. Tires in a turn have to have slip angle in order to create traction. So through every turn that you make, whether it's super gentle or if you're on the racetrack, your tire is in fact slipping, because if it weren't, then it wouldn't be creating traction. And the same thing is true for longitudinal, so acceleration and braking. John informed me the last time we talked that the Tesla traction control actually measures voltage drop to know the rotational relation between the different corners of the vehicle, and that's incredibly high tech. And I'm not referring to the actual rotation of the tires. I'm talking about the actual slipping of the tread blocks that are there in contact with the road. If they weren't slipping, your tire would be skidding and it wouldn't be creating traction. So again, even if you drive very sedately everywhere you go. Your tires are slipping every time you hit that accelerator, and with that prodigious torque that's available right now, it just it wears at the tires very, very quickly. So much so that this is just a kind of generally accepted number, and you'll get variations depending on who in the tire world you talk to. But in general, it's expected that all else held the same. If you had the exact same vehicle, except one was powered by a motor and one was internal combustion, there'd be about a 20% reduction in mileage, which of course, right from the beginning there doesn't bode well. But sorry, another drink. One thing that the TireRack that we are trying to do to help out, yes, Tesla owners, but really all consumers, is we are collecting data. That's something that we like to do, and I have this chart here, and the contents aren't really important. It's just kind of there for pretty visuals. But this is something that we were resistant to for quite a while because it requires us surveying our customers, and everybody hates surveys these days. You everything you do, you call customer service. Oh, how'd we do? Stay on the line. Or you make a purchase and you get an email the next day. Oh, how'd we do? Rate us. You have an app. Give us 5 stars, please. Everybody wants a survey, and so we were really hesitant to it. But what we've done is we've created just a simple 2-question survey when you're checking out, when you're buying tires from the TireRack. And those questions are, what tires are you taking off the vehicle? And then how many miles do you have on them? And that's it. And fortunately, people are very receptive to this, and they're responding at an incredible rate. And we are building a lot of data to the point that we are figuring out by tire line approximately how many miles users are getting on these tires before they take them out of service. And that's not to say before they're worn out, because we don't know how much tread depth is left when people fill out the survey. But we know reasonable, practical, usable miles that people are getting out of these tires. And since you're typically you enter your vehicle when you're shopping, we are developing a way that we can actually break this down by vehicle. So you can say, I have a Tesla Model X, and we can say, okay, well, TireRack customers are getting the most mileage out of these 1, 2, 3 tires, or whatever the case may be. And that's not quite ready for prime time yet. It's something that we're working on, but it is it's hope. I've been being negative Nancy about longevity basically this entire slide. So I'm just letting you know there's there's hope in the future. And in the meantime, you can always look at our consumer ratings. These are our ratings that we have for every tire category. It's based on consumer submitted reviews. So it's basically crowdsourced data. And treadwear is one of the categories that people rate. So you can look at, in general, our consumers getting, let's say a 9.0 for treadwear out of tire A and a 7.5 out of tire B. You can be pretty confident that if you put tire A on your vehicle, you're going to get, more life out of it than if you had chosen tire B, because that equates whether it's internal combustion or if it's an electric vehicle. Alrighty. Another thing that we talked about earlier is load ratings. Because Teslas are heavy. Like we said, a Model S weighs, for all intents and purposes, the same as a big old Porsche Cayenne Turbo. And day one of training for our TireRack sales team, the first question that our trainer asks is, what's the most important job of a tire? And the answer that we eventually come to is to carry the load that is asked of it. That is a tire's #1 job. Everything else is secondary to that. And so how do they do that? They do that, as I'm sure many people know, they do that through the air that is inside them. And if you want a quick and easy example of that, let all the air out of your tires and let me know if it's still carrying the load of your vehicle. Of course, no, it isn't. But there are, so it's the air that's actually inside the chamber that carries the weight asked of it. And one of the ways to increase that load carrying capacity is to physically make that air chamber bigger. Use a bigger tire. That's the way truck tires work, or one of the ways that truck tires work. They are physically larger in dimension, so you can put more air in them, and therefore you can carry more weight. But what happens when you have, these 21 and 22-inch wheels on your low, sleek Tesla, and there's not room, there's physically not enough space to put a bigger tire on it. So then what does Tesla do? Well, the other way that you can increase the load carrying capacity is to actually physically cram more air into that air chamber. And that's through increased PSI. So higher PSI, more air molecules inside the chamber of the same size, and therefore greater load carrying capacity. And that's what Tesla does on pretty much all of their tires. All of the original equipment tires that I looked at before, I got tired of going through line by line of all of the all the original equipment applications for Tesla. They're all extra load. So that's kind of what happens when you have your SUV mass with car tire sizing. It results in extra load tires and high inflation pressures, which is what we often see, or very often see on Tesla vehicles. Thank you. Appreciate your patience. Then more into the fun stuff. The performance of these vehicles. It challenges tires in ways that are confounding to tire manufacturers, but man, it is fun for the end user. And as much as I've talked about how, so many people treat it like a daily driver, and they're green focused, they're electric, mileage focused. They're fun. A lot of Tesla owners are performance vehicle owners, and they know it. We are seeing lap times that are falling to, or lap records, lap records at tracks that are falling to electric vehicles, time attack competitions being won by electric vehicles. I'm sure a lot of you know, but for those that don't, last year in autocross, the TireRack Solo National Championship, so the national championship, B Street was won by a man named David Marcus driving a Tesla Model 3. And so more and more of the general public is picking up on this, and the tire manufacturers are too. And they're buying test vehicles. They're buying Tesla's Model 3s as test mules to develop these new tires. And it's coming up with new innovations and whole new tire lines. We know one of the big manufacturers is developing a performance summer tire that was designed from the beginning to be used on a Tesla vehicle, and it's breaking down a lot of these common trade-offs that I've been talking about basically this entire time. So it will be low rolling resistance focused, but it also will be good in the wet and a great performer and supposed to have good longevity. And that's a ELECT logo that I have there. That's one of Pirelli's innovations. They're branding the sidewalls of tires that were developed specifically for electric vehicles. So they have just a handful of tires in the market now. But like I said at the very beginning, the tire manufacturers were kind of waiting to see if EVs were going to take off, and now they're starting to catch up. So we're seeing and hearing about tires that are coming to market that are specific for electric vehicles, which is it's nice to be able to go from the gloom and doom that I was kind of at the beginning with low rolling resistance is bad and your longevity is going to go down and all that, but now we're starting to turn the corner, so to speak, and come back. And then another fun innovation that is being driven very much by that lack of driveline noise that we talked about at the beginning in electric vehicles is noise canceling tire technology. And it's actually a simply ingenious solution. The tire manufacturers are just applying foam, adhering foam to the inner liner of the tires. And the way that it works, the concept behind it, it's called a Helmholtz chamber. Basically think of it like if you're blowing over the top of a pop bottle, and it makes that noise because of all the molecules inside the bottle being excited and vibrating. And of course, all noise is just vibration. But if you filled that same bottle with foam, it wouldn't have the same effect, because the molecules, they're being deflected. Anyway, the foam takes away the sound is the moral of the story. And all the tire manufacturers have different methods for this. Some of them use a continuous piece of foam. Some of them use individual squares. We've seen some performance tires that have a big outboard shoulder, and there's just this narrow little strip of foam in the outboard shoulder because the vehicle and tire manufacturers determined that's where the noise is coming from. We're actually seeing vehicles spec'd with noise canceling technology tires on one axle, but not the other, because they've worked together. The tire and vehicle manufacturers have realized that only one of the two axles is where the problem is coming from, and of course the noise canceling tires cost more. So to keep those costs down, the vehicle manufacturer only specs it where it's needed. It's lean manufacturing, or lean. Anyway, doesn't matter. So they all have, all the tire manufacturers have their own, clever marketing names for them, and they all brand it on the sidewall. And so that's how you'd know if your tires that are currently on your vehicle have the noise canceling foam. You can find that branding. Just my example there is Michelin Acoustics, Michelin Acoustic Technology, the logo that they have for that. And when you're on the TireRack website, you can see we label all of the tires. Right there below the size where I have that red box shows that this original equipment Continental Tesla tire is a Conti Silent tire. And fortunately, you don't have to memorize all the different marketing names because they all have something to do with noise. It's Michelin Acoustic, it's Conti Silent, it's Pirelli Noise Canceling System, it's Bridgestone B Silent, which, like I told John, I hope they didn't make too much money, or I hope the marketing team didn't make too much money on that one. But if you see something that has to do with sound, that's the marketing name for this noise canceling tire technology. Another technology that is seeing a big advancement, and you wouldn't think of it as also being noise canceling, but it's sealant in tires. The vehicle manufacturers, the electric vehicle manufacturers, typically do not spec a spare tire. Having the tire, the jack, the hardware, all the mounting, one, that's added weight that hurts range, but also a lot of times there's a motor in the way that wants to occupy the same space that spare tire would. So one of the ways to get around that conundrum is sealant tires, which sealant tires they're in the unenviable position that when they do their job properly, the person that they're helping doesn't know that it happened. Because what they do is, say you drive over a nail, it sticks in the tire. When that nail is ejected, it pulls the sealant out with it, and that fills the damage path, and the driver is none the wiser. They continue on, with their newly sealed tire, and they don't know that it happened. So because of that, there's some resistance in the aftermarket to adopt this technology because there's a cost associated with it. And so somebody that doesn't know if they were ever, had their day saved by this technology, it's tough to get them to pay the additional cost. But in addition to the sealant, kind of helping to take the place of a traditional spare tire, it also helps reduce noise in the same way. Though we have found that the foam tires help with abrupt impacts, with that thwack or that thump over, a frost heave or an expansion joint or whatever the case may be. Whereas sealant, it helps more for the droning sound that is caused by the molecules in the tire, the air molecules in the tire, vibrate the tire, which vibrates the wheel, and then to the suspension, then to the structure of the vehicle, and then it ends up, bothering the vehicle occupants. So sealant works better in that regard. And then one that is not a new innovation, not a new technology, but something that, that is extra important for electric vehicle owners is good old-fashioned tire rotation. Um, Even if you have staggered, width tires, front and rear, so you can't rotate front to rear, rotate side to side. No vehicle is perfectly square. Sometimes, everybody has a variance in the number of left-hand turns you take versus the number of right-hand turns you take. You might load your vehicle differently if it's only you in the driver's seat most of the time. So it's not going to wear evenly side to side. And tires, when they're designed, the manufacturers will add features or include features or design the features that they want to be there, that help counteract each other's frequencies. If not cancel one another out, then at least not stack on top of one another. And what that does is, instead of having a constant drone that's very objectionable to the cabin, or the people in the cabin of the vehicle, it helps create a more broad white tone that is more pleasant. But all tire tread patterns, or at least the vast majority of tire tread patterns, they evolve as the tire wears, or as we like to call it, they devolve as the tire wears, because a lot of times you are losing some of those helpful features. So just inherently, the noise will increase as your tires wear. The perceptible noise, anyway, will increase as your tires wear. But even more so than that, irregular wear will greatly increase the noise that is made by your tires. If you run your hand along it and you feel it, you'll be able to hear it. And then if it's bad enough to the point that you can actually see it, it's beyond repair. And honestly, beyond repair is kind of a misnomer, or I shouldn't say it like that, because they won't correct themselves. Irregular wear won't correct themselves, and we get it all the time. People buy brand new tires, and they'll say, oh, I everything was fine at first, but now I have 15,000 miles on my tires, and I got them rotated for the first time because they were starting to get loud. And I thought the tire rotation would help that, but now it's worse. How can this possibly be? And it's kind of a textbook situation. What happened was, the rears wore somewhat irregularly, and that was the noise that they started hearing. And then now you rotate and you put the rear tires on the front, and now all of a sudden the noise is even louder because the noisy tires are on the front of the car. Like I said, that won't correct itself, and tires are most susceptible to irregular wear when they are new. The taller tread blocks of a new tire, they move around more, so there's more motion there, which makes them more likely to develop irregular wear. So I personally rotate my new tires every 2,500 miles for the first 3 rotations. After that, every 5,000 miles for 3 rotations, and then after that, every 7,500, or maybe I don't even worry about it anymore because I'm done with those tires and ready to move on to something else. But I'd say it's even more important because it'll be even more noticeable in an electric vehicle to be up on those rotations early. So a part of the prodigious performance that's capable, or the Teslas are capable of, they know that when they manufacture a vehicle, journalists are going to get a hold of them. They're going to put them on the stopwatch. They're going to run them through the figure 8. They're going to run them around the track. And all vehicle manufacturers, performance vehicle manufacturers, want those numbers to be as impressive as possible, because numbers help sell tires. And one of the results of that is a lot of the original equipment tires for Teslas are summer only tires. And that helps with grip, that helps with performance, but they're not intended to be driven in near freezing temperatures, and certainly not in snow, ice, slush, any kind of typical wintry conditions. Which that's another big change for a lot of people. If you graduated from, say, a Prius to a Tesla, not saying anything bad about the Prius, but if that was your last experience, and you got 80,000 miles on your all-season tires on your Prius, and now you have these original equipment summer tires on your Tesla, and it's, wait a minute, you mean it's only going to last me 25,000 miles? Oh, and wait a minute, I can't drive them year round? You're saying I need a special set of tires for the winter time? So that's something that it's a very real concern. But fortunately, um, you have options. I looked for basically all the Teslas that I could find, and there were only two that I saw that didn't have winter tires in the original equipment sizes, and that was a 21-inch stagger on a Model Y and a 22-inch staggered set on the Model X. But basically, everybody else, you have the option. Do you want to replace tires only? And put just a winter tire on, or do you want to replace the tire and the wheel as a unit? And of course, there are trade-offs, there are drawbacks to both options. The CEO of our company, he actually has a Tesla, and so he and I talked a little bit about this presentation, and I just, he gave me some of his insight to winter tire use, and he says, "Man, you put winter tires on the vehicle, and you feel like you're king of the road, king of the road." And he used to use the original size 21-inch tires, front and rear. And he said, "Man, they look great and they handle great, but after several instances of 2 tire blowouts, which that'll really ruin your day, and multiple bent original equipment wheels, he decided he was going to downsize to a tire and wheel package." And that is one of the big benefits of going with tires and wheels both. Is you reduce the wheel diameter. One, that makes the wheels less expensive, which is very nice. It also opens up more options for tires typically, because there are a lot more 19-inch tires, winter tires available than there are 21-inch winter tires. So you have more options, and then you also protect your expensive original equipment wheels. They're not driven in the salt, in the snow, and over those hidden potholes that I hear they have quite a few of those out in the east, as they tell us. So I hear. And so those are, your 2 options. And then you also typically, if you downsize, you have the option of tire category, and not all winter tires are created the same. And you have basically 2 schools of thought when it comes to winter tires. First, which is the one that I happen to fall in, is I buy winter tires. I use winter tires for the absolute worst conditions I'm going to encounter. Those early mornings when the plows haven't been out and I'm trying to get to work, and the snow's up to my grill and there's ice everywhere and traffic slowed to a halt in the right lane, and I'm still trying to do 77 miles an hour down the toll road in the left lane. And for that type of scenario, you want a studless ice and snow winter tire. That's your Bridgestone Blizzak WS series tire, the Michelin X-Ice line of tires, your Continental Viking Contact. Those are going to give you the absolute best performance in winter's worst weather. So deep snow, slush, ice, hugely cold temperatures, they're designed to handle all that. Their trade-off, though, is what the tire manufacturers have to do to make them perform better in those conditions. One, it hurts wear a little bit when you're driving on clear, dry roads, and it also hurts the handling and just the general driving quality of the tires. You'll notice that they're a little bit squishier, they're slower to react, they're not as precise. And so that leads us to kind of the second school of thought, which is those that buy tires for the conditions they drive in most often, or buy winter tires for the conditions they drive in most often. And also often that can be something from the performance winter category, which if it's my city plows pretty well, so yeah, I'll get some deep snow sometimes, but usually I'm driving on some slush or some light packed snow or that kind of thing. That's when a performance winter tire it has enhanced capability for those bad conditions, but it drives nicer, it feels better, it's better in the dry, it's better in the wet. It helps maintain the performance feel of your high performance vehicle. And fortunately, we're not just looking at the car Teslas, the Model X, and I didn't add the Model Y, oversight on me, but there's also the light truck and SUV equivalent for truck type vehicles. So fortunately, if you ended up with with original equipment summer tires and you live in a snow state, like I said, you have options. And that honestly brings us to the end of our presentation. So I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has now, John, if you want to.
That's sure. That's great, TJ. Thank you. Yeah, we had a couple of questions in the chat. We have one question about PSI,
Sure.
and it's a good one. Eddie wants to know, if you can check the PSI. You're supposed to check it when it's cold. What do you do if you're driving somewhere and you need to stop at a gas station and put your air in? Is there some kind of percentage or amount of pressure you would use when they're warm?
Oh, yeah, that is a good question. And as you're kind of alluding to, the door placard inflation pressure is cold inflation. So if you're driving along and you have one tire that's low, I would check the inflation pressure of the other tire on the same axle. Would be the first thing that I do, and just try to match those side to side. If not, honestly, there isn't I mean, if you can't do that for some reason, honestly, there is not a set percentage, a set rate at which tires increase pressure, or one tire versus another. Sure, it's 1 psi for every 10 degrees in temperature swing, but that of course requires you to know how much warmer your tires have gotten, and that's what I'm saying. There's no formula for that really. So your best bet is to just match it to the other tire that's on the same axle.
Great. Ben would like to know about the Goodyear Recharge tire. Is that just a concept tire, or is that going to be real?
Those, if it is the tire that I'm remembering, is it the spherical tire?
Yeah, Ben, you can come off mute if you want to ask.
Yeah, no, it's not a spherical tire. It's just, from what I remember, maybe it is a spherical tire. That's not the one I meant then. So never mind my question. There's another tire that's, one of them announced like a year ago that was supposed to be just a normal tire designed for EV, and I forget, maybe that was probably not the right name of it.
No, it's okay. I'm cheating right now. I'm Googling it because that was the self-regenerating.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the one. I forget who announced it, but I think it had like a blue sidewall sort of on it when they did the announcement. I forget what the.
No, I'm looking at the picture of it right now. Yeah, that was definitely a concept, and you'll see that a lot from the tire manufacturers. And that was the first one that I thought you were in reference to. Goodyear also came out with what was actually a spherical tire, and it's pushing the limits of what is actually possible. It's like when a concept car comes out and it has 24s, and they say, oh, it's going to be powered by a jet engine, and then if something resembling this makes it to production, it's within the bounds of reality, and that's the way that Recharge was, and the other tire that unfortunately I can't remember what it was called. Their design studies, their concepts of, sometime down the road this might be something that we can get to.
Cool.
I have a question.
Go for it.
I have a Performance Model 3 with the summer performance tires, and I found out after I bought the car you can't run them in the wintertime. So I bought another set of wheels and rims, all seasonal tires. Are you finding many people just running all seasonal tires year round, or most people still continue to switch from the summer tire to winter tire?
Sure. I mean, honestly, the take rate for winter tires in the U.S. Is low, and I mean that's just a fact of life. If somebody can leave a tire on year round, chances are they're going to do it. At the TireRack, at the headquarters where we work, they make it as easy as they possibly can to change over employees' tires. You send an email to set up an appointment. In the morning, when you walk past the front desk, you chuck your keys at them. They charge you $20 and they'll do it. It could not, I mean, it could be, but realistically, it could not be any easier. And yet we did a survey of the parking lot, and 12% of our employees were driving winter tires still in the middle of July. And it's just, it's the human condition. It's just, that's just kind of the way it goes. We would always recommend, and I personally, I'm a summer tire in the summer person and a winter tire in the winter, because I want to maximize my performance and also my safety in either of those conditions. Summer tires have better traction in the dry and typically in the wet also than all season tires do. Winter tires certainly have better traction in snow, slush, ice, and freezing temperatures than all season tires do. So if you want to maximize your capability, your stress stress level when you're driving, or I guess minimize your stress level when you're driving, the summer and winter tire setup is the best bet. But to answer the crux of your question, do most people run all season tires? Honestly, yes, most people do run all season tires here in the U.S. for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, DJ. Harry, if you want to come off mute and ask your question, feel free.
Unmute. Okay.
There you go.
I've purchased lots of tires from you guys at TireRack.
Thank you very
My
much.
favorite right now is the B.
Harry's our local race guy.
Oh, awesome.
I've had really good luck with a BFG Comp TA all season radial. Had them on a Porsche Boxster, and done track time with them, put them on the Tesla. And, they're for about half the price of that Continental that you were talking about. The tire is pretty a phenomenal tire. I'm pulling like 1.5 Gs on the track mode meter.
Sure. Yeah, it's impressive.
It's a very competitive tire. Plus, last year, unfortunately, I got stuck in the snow with my Porsche and was able to get up a hill with that tire, which I'd never thought I would, but it does have a snow rating. So, I mean, it's sort of your best bet all around tire. It may not have the best mileage, but on the other hand, I think what they're selling for is about 170, 190 bucks a tire, depending on the size.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that sounds in the ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah, they're I recommend it to family and friends, and I got them on a Tesla, and I've had four track sessions on that car with a Performance 3, and they start out, I think, at 9:30 seconds, if I'm not mistaken.
I'd have to check it. I'm sure it's either 9 or 10, honestly.
Yeah, and after that, I'm down to 8:30 seconds. So it's
And you're talking about the GeForce Comp 2 AS, the all season. Awesome. Yeah. And, BF Goodrich did just come out with a plus version of that tire.
I just got that set.
Yep.
Yeah.
When we tested it, it's great. We do get some complaints about noise on that tire. Part of it, I think, is a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. People look at it and they think, oh, it's directional and it looks like it has an aggressive pattern, so they think it's going to be loud, and they've kind of got that in their head. Because when we tested it, we didn't have a problem with noise at all. But also, it goes back to that rotation issue. Since they are directional, people are sometimes less willing to rotate them, or just, of course, front and back, and it can develop irregular wear. And then that's something that will really increase the noise over time. But yeah, it's brand new. Like I said, when we tested it, we had no issues with noise, and it performs very well.
And even in the wet, I mean, the only other comment is, I think someone else had mentioned, the performance tires that come with the Tesla 3, under about 40 degrees, they sort of go away. They don't really give you the traction. Whereas this, you can drive all year round. I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend it 0 degrees.
Sure.
But
Certainly.
For most of the temperate climate we have in Pennsylvania, that's an all-around great tire at a great price. It even has a performance component. And even in the wet, I did a little track testing and pulling about over 1 G, if you believe the Tesla G meter.
Sure, right.
And that was the same thing with the Porsche Boxster S. It was pulling over 1 G in the wet.
That's an impressive number. And you're talking peak Gs, right? Not sustained lateral Gs.
Probably peak. Got to test it somewhere in an empty parking lot, but
Sure. Of course. Yeah, and like I said, we've been very happy with it, and especially considering it's BFG is kind of in that like a tier 2 type product. It is just impressive performance for the dollar for sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
Thanks. Mike, you're up next, bud.
You were talking about switching from your summer to your winter tires,
Mhm.
and I've always struggled with when do I put on the winter tires? Obviously before snow, but here anyway in PA, we start getting kind of funky weather around this time of year, where next week we could hit 70 again.
Yep.
I kind of hesitate to put the winters on because my understanding is that on those warmer weather, it's just horrible wear on them. Maybe I'm wrong.
I wouldn't quite go with horrible. Yes, they are wearing at a faster rate than they are in the cold, and of course, it's going to be affected by how you drive and what you drive, etc. All the typical caveats. But
Well, I drive like an idiot, if I'm being
okay, well, then
completely
you're probably going to
honest.
wear them pretty. You're probably going to wear them pretty quickly.
Yeah, I have a P100D, and
Oh.
I take advantage of it.
That's why you have it.
So I'm just kind of curious what you would recommend for when to switch out to winter, and then when in the springtime would you kind of say, okay, it's time to go back? Are you looking for sustained temperatures over certain or below certain levels?
Certainly, and my first question, and it'll make the difference, is are your other tires, your non-winter tires, are they summer or are they all season?
Well, they will be summer. They're still what I came with. I only have 17,000 miles at this point, so I haven't taken off the all seasons it came with yet.
Certainly, understood. Just because your other option is a summer option, which was not designed to be driven in freezing temperatures on snow or on ice, I would recommend being more conservative in that regard, because it's better to drive your winter tires in warm temperatures than it is to drive your summer tires in freezing temperatures.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and they turn into plastic. They don't work.
It's a safety issue. The winter tires in the warm temperatures, it's not ideal. They don't handle as nicely. They're going to wear a little bit faster, but it's not a safety issue. Yes, exactly. It's more dangerous. If your other option is all season tires, just our general, rule of thumb is if you can consistently see your breath, then you should be on your winter tires. So it's easier than coming up with a specific temperature. But it's just, winter is a set of conditions. It's not just snow. It's not just ice. It's not just cold temperatures. So just in general, like I said, if you can consistently see your breath, then I would be on your winter tires.
Okay. Then, yeah, I'll follow up again later. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alicia, I think you're up next.
Yeah, hey, thanks. I'm glad to be here. New member of the Pennsylvania Club, board member from the Del Val Club. So this is great. Early before the program started, you mentioned the TJ that Michelin Cross Climate. We've got 25K on our Model 3 with the original Aero wheels, and kind of going between getting the Tesla with the foam or whether or not, or something different altogether. Yep. And we're using just one. We're in Delaware, so it's just an all-season tire year-round at this point.
Certainly. I mean, just in general, I am always kind of resistant to going back to original equipment tires. And the reason for that is original equipment tires are manufactured for not the end user, the driver. They're manufactured for the vehicle manufacturer. And if it's something, this is my example, but Porsche, for example, where they have, highly tuned vehicles that are designed to drive on the Autobahn at, VMAX and sometimes in the wet. Those tires are tuned typically for drivers' needs, because Porsche and their drivers are kind of in line. When you move into the realm of electric vehicles, really it's very highly range focused. You know, one of the big deterrents to mass acceptance of electric vehicles is range anxiety. And so it was a big deal when, you know, electric vehicle manufacturers could say, you know, oh, 200 miles per charge, 250, 300. And in addition, of course, to battery and motor technology advancing, one of the ways that they continue to increase that was through changing tire technology. And so it's just, when you have a replacement market tire like the Cross Climate, that's the tire manufacturers, with, you know, the handcuffs have been taken off. They're only limited by their technology, their imagination, and their budget, and they are trying to do what tire manufacturers do best: create the best tire for you. And when it's something like the Cross Climate, which is a flagship product from a company like Michelin, which is, you know, one of the technology leaders out there, that is, it's just a complete package type tire, that, sure, it might not have you might lose some range. I mean, in fact, you probably will lose some range compared to your original equipment tires, but just the other things that I would assume it will excel in, including the light snow traction that comes from being a Three Peak Mountain Snowflake branded all season tire. That would be my vote for you. Sorry, long explanation to say, you know what, I'd choose the Cross Climate over.
No, that's okay. I was not overly familiar with it. I've been buying tires from TireRack for, you know, 25 years or something like that. But yeah, so but that's a new one to me. So this is useful. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Great. Any other questions for TJ? Yeah, let's see. Sure, Harry, come on, pop on.
Okay. TJ, well, for the rest of the people on the club, I did a little experimenting. Obviously, I needed a set of track tires and something else other than standard street tires, and I went and
Something's bumping your mic, Harry. You're getting all kinds of distortion in your audio.
sorry. I'll start over. So I needed another set of tires and wheels. I went to an 18-inch set of Tesla wheels. Put the CompTA all seasons 255, 40, 18, I think. And I noticed that my range automatically improved from a max of 297 to like 307.
Okay.
And then I swapped them back, and of course the range with the 20 inches went back to 297.
Sure.
Only because I clicked on the setting for 20-inch wheels. This last time I didn't bother, and the car was smart enough to pick up, oh, you got a new set of wheels. Yeah, I left it alone, but I'm still at 305, 307 for range. The diameter has not changed a whole lot. The CompTAs are 26 even for overall diameter, whereas the Michelins that came stock 26.4. So it's about a 2% difference. But still, that, you know, you can improve the range. For some reason, it gives you a better range when the car senses are 18-inch wheels on it.
Sure.
And they're not aero wheels. They're the, I can't remember exactly the name of the, it's one of the performance, it's not Unplugged, but one of the other performance wheels out there.
Admittedly, I'm not, you know, intimately familiar with Tesla vehicles, but is that, if you were to, you know, run till the battery dies, is that your actual range, that 307 miles, or is that a predicted range?
That's what pops up on the range meter on the left side of the screen. Actual range, it depends on how you drive. I mean, you can, if you drive very sedately, you can probably get close to what it's predicting. But for most driving, I find it's about a 1.4 to 1.6 simulation.
Gotcha.
In other words, if you're saying the car says you have 200 miles, you'll get maybe 160.
Okay, understood. So yeah, so something about just it knowing that you have those smaller diameter wheels and tires, it predicts that you will you'll have increased range. That's very interesting. I don't know what factors the vehicle takes into consideration when it's given that projection. So like I said, unfortunately, I'm not intimately familiar with Tesla, but yeah, that's good to know.
It might actually be the weight of the wheel too.
It could very well be. Yep, that's definitely one of the things that came to mind.
It actually is not. I did weigh the wheels and tires, and I think the difference was maybe a couple pounds at the most.
And one of the things too, right? I mean, obviously, if you go inside the vehicle, you can change your tire right in there. And depending if you put 18, 19s, or 20s, it's going to change your range just inside the Tesla.
Gotcha. So it is. It's using some kind of algorithm and predicting just based on what you tell it you have. Gotcha.
Yep.
Yep.
Let's see, Ken, you're up next, I think.
Yeah, sorry about the baby noise. Just kind of following up with you mentioning that even with staggered tires, you really need to be rotating them. How do you go about really doing that if you have tires with a directional tread? That's kind of dependent on orientation.
Yep, that's you're inherently limited, undoubtedly. You do have the option of actually having the tires dismounted and flipped on the wheels, so that way you have now a new forward and forward shoulder. But that's really your only option. So like I said, it's an inherent limitation that it's going to be more of a hassle to have your tires rotated, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice yawn, Noah. All righty. Any other questions for TJ? Floor is open. Here we go. Mike, go ahead. Go for it, buddy.
So fairly specific here, but on the Model X, mine was supposed to come with 22-inch wheels, but I didn't want them, so I swapped down to the 20s. And being that, as we discussed in the beginning, I punctured my one winter tire. Just thinking, if you had to buy one set of winter tires and one set of summer tires for a very high-powered, high-torque vehicle, which tires specifically would you want for your winters and which for your summers?
Understood. Without without looking at what actually is available for your specific tire sizes, that's always a risk that I'm going to recommend something, and then we actually look and see, oh well, shoot, I shouldn't have recommended that one because you can't have it. So knowing in advance that we're running that risk, the summer tire that I would pick would be the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. It's just, I mean, it's an amazing tire. There's a reason that it's the benchmark for max performance summer. It's actually reasonably fuel efficient and has reasonably long life, but then just the performance characteristics, the way it drives, the way it grips in the wet, that would be my choice. And then moving to the winter side of things, if you remember my description between performance winter and studless ice and snow, are you more, I want the winter tire for the absolute worst conditions I can find, or do you want the tire that gives up a little bit of that for the better driving?
Yeah, I wish there was a magic bullet in the middle there. In the past, I had the XI2s on a BMW 3 Series.
Sure.
And obviously I didn't have nearly the torque on that vehicle, but I was blown away. I mean, I could drive up a 30% grade and not slip in those things with rear wheel drive.
Sure.
I think right now, I'm pretty sure I've got the Scorpion Winters is what I've got now. Obviously I still want to be able to have a little performance. If I need to punch out in front of someone or get on the highway quickly, I don't want to feel like I'm going to fly off the road because of, body roll.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I don't want to get stuck in 8 inches of snow either.
Sure. Well, in that case, I'll give you a recommendation from each. For performance winter, the Pirelli Winter Soda 03 is a great driving, performs very well in the bad conditions. And then if we're talking something studless ice and snow, and given the size tires that are on the Model X, honestly, studless ice and snow might not be available for you unless you drop down to a smaller diameter wheel. I would go the Bridgestone Blizzak WS90. Their newest, latest, and greatest would be the studless ice and snow tire that I would recommend.
More than the XI.
The new X-Ice Snow, I don't believe is going to be available in Tesla performance tire sizes. So that would be, that's the newest Michelin versus the newest Bridgestone. It'd be a trade-off. We actually haven't compared those two head to head yet.
Your
So
website, just so you know, does list it as one of my options.
the X-Ice Snow.
Yes, the XI Snow lists as new in a 265 4520 and a 275 4520.
Gotcha. Okay, so it is available. That would be up there too. I went to the launch event for the X-i Snow. It of course was very good there, but that's a launch event, and so they're designed to demonstrate what the tire manufacturer wants you to learn. Of course, we haven't tested that one in real life. So it's on one hand the WS90 that is the known excellent performer versus the unknown that has the Michelin reputation with it. And I have to go with my recommendation for what I know versus telling you that you should buy something I haven't put through a test yet.
Cool. I appreciate that.
Okay, let's see. Ken had a question on that topic for what's the best single all season for a Model X?
It depends what your priorities are.
Probably range more than anything. Having at least a decent enough grip on the roads, given that the winters in this area, they can get a little snowy, but I grew up in New England and I can handle it.
Then I would go with something. Again, I have a little bit of difficulty going to the pure eco-focused tires to the ones that feel like they kind of sacrifice the performances that you use on a daily basis. So I would recommend something in like the Grand Touring all season category. Something like the Bridgestone Turanza Quiet Track is a very nice tire. It drives well. It is quiet, as the name implies. So that would be a good choice, and it's one of Bridgestone's more eco-focused tires. I guess not more. They have at least an eco-focus with that tire. So that's my choice for you.
Okay, hey Chris, you're up, buddy. Yeah, you need to.
I missed my mute there. Yeah, so I'm looking for my Model 3 too. It's like I said in the beginning, I just turned a little more than 26,000 miles, and my OEM MXM4s are about done. But I printed out 3 papers here: the Pilot All Season 4s, the Potenza RE 980 AS, and the G-Force Comp 2 AS. So I'm probably somebody that's going to drive the same tires all year round. I do a lot of city driving. I just feel I've felt comfortable for the last 2 years with this car, so I think I'll feel okay with driving all seasons. I just want to make sure that, if I were to go with the Pilot Sport all season 4s, that they can be driven in the winter.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they can. And that is one that, again, we haven't put it through an official test, but we did a private test with that tire. And one of its big breakthroughs is light snow traction within the ultra high performance all season category. That has been one place that just kind of in general, tires from that category have struggled a bit in light snow traction. And the Pilot Sport All Season 4 has made big breakthroughs in that regard. So that would definitely be my recommendation as a year-round tire from the ultra high performance all season category, which is where all 3 of those tires that you printed out, that's where all 3 of those fall. That would definitely be my choice for you. I know Harry really likes the BFG, but I would have to give the nod to the Michelin in that regard.
Great, thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Well, that's wonderful. Hey, TJ, I can't thank you enough. I mean, this was great.
Hey, I'm happy to do it. Like I said, thank you all very much for for asking us to do this, for expressing the interest in what we do, and for listening to me rattle on for an hour, however long that was.
Yeah, no, it's actually, I even though, you and I talked before, I learn something new every time I listen to you speak. So.
Good, good. That's the goal. So thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, TJ. Very interesting.
Yep.
You're very welcome, Vic.
All right. Yeah. So if you want to cut out, TJ, I think you're good, man. And
Sure.
go home, will you?
Yeah, you got it. Do I need to relinquish my screen to you, or can I just leave?
No, I already did that. You're all. You can just leave the meeting, and you're all good. You're all set, buddy.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, man. All righty.